Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 177th Annual Town Meeting of the Town of Waukesha, Tuesday, April 16th, 2019, beginning at 7 p.m. Good to see all of you here. We're going to switch up the agenda just a bit. Clerk Treasurer Nicholas is going to administer the oath of office to new officials, and then we'll proceed with the agenda the way it's printed up and presented. Okay. I, Brian Fisher, having been elected or appointed to the office of chairman, swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability, so help me God. Thank you.
And if you could sign it.
Yep. Perhaps it would be appropriate for Clerk Treasurer Nicholas to just explain also the oath of office that's already been administered. Bob Stigler, would you do that, please?
Yes. Supervisor Stigler was unable to attend due to a conflict, and he had been sworn in on April 11th, which puts his duty in the proper statute limitations. So he is also sworn in.
Thank you. All right, we'll consider the meeting called to order, and if you would all join me and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A note of explanation here, and then we'll proceed with the roll call, but this annual meeting is supposed to be run by the outgoing chairman, but John Merrick is unable to be here this evening, so we'll proceed. There's actually provision in Wisconsin State Statutes, Chapter 60, in the eventuality that the outgoing chairperson isn't here. One of the other members of the board then is to run the meeting. I'll propose to do that unless anyone objects. So we'll proceed then with roll call, please.
Supervisor Durr?
Here.
Supervisor Radke?
Here.
Supervisor German?
Here.
Chairman Fisher?
Here. First item of real business on the agenda is to approve and dispense with the reading of the minutes of the 176th Annual Town Meeting, which was held on April 17th, 2018. So we would look for an approval for that, and I should just mention this is a thing in which this is the electors meeting, so a motion appropriately can come from anybody from the floor.
So moved.
Okay, and who said that, please? So we get for record. Okay, thank you. Seconded by Mary Graves. Okay. All of those who would be in favor of approving and dispensing with the reading of the minutes from the 176th Annual Town Meeting held on April 17th, 2018, indicate by saying aye. Aye. And all opposed? That's a unanimous approval. We'll next proceed to item 5 on the agenda, which are reports. We have a whole bunch of dignities in our midst, so we'll proceed with their reports, starting with Administrator and Clerk Treasurer Kathy Nicholas.
At the end of 2018, the office became administration as well as the Clerk Treasurer. We scheduled monthly meetings with the department heads, to start reviewing projects and budgets as time goes on. The office completed the codification in 2018 of the town code, and that has been updated on the website and is much easier to search than our previous code. Elections in 2018 were pretty much our bread and butter in the office. We had 4 elections, one being the governor's office. We also enhanced our polling locations with the purchase of Badger books, which are electronic poll books. We use touchscreen machines, touchscreen monitors, which help reduce the time in line, and we saw that reduction in the November election as well as this April's election. We were one of 8 communities in the entire state using it in 2018. They are expanding that in 2020. With the office taking over non-compliance notification, in the past the building inspector did that. We are seeing a reduction in the properties on the monthly reports, and in 2018 the monthly reports were placed on the website. In 2018 we had several cash accounts. We have a checking and savings account at Waukesha State Bank. We have a money market at Waukesha State Bank and also at Associated Bank. At Citizens Bank, First Federal Bank, Landmark Credit Union, and Sunset Bank, we all have CDs, trying to spread it around so we are at that 250 mark and not too much more than that. I'd like to thank our deputies in the office, Deputy Clerk Treasurer Terry Sales and Joan Seiferts, as well as Betty Pageant for all of their work in the office. And I'd like to congratulate Brian Fisher, Bob Stigler, and David German on their elections. That's my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Second report would be from Paul Franz, our auditor with Baker Tilly Virchow Kraus LLP. Chatting with him briefly before the meeting started. He and his staff members are in high demand tonight. Lots of town board meetings going on, right?
That is a true statement. Yes.
All right, so welcome, and we'd be delighted to hear your report.
Perfect, thanks for having me. So prior to tonight, you would have received 2 bound documents, one being the financial statements for the audit of 12/31/18, and then a communication to those charged with governance and management. Tonight, I've made available to the public and yourselves a handout that I'll speak from that summarizes both of those documents. So the first point in the handout, our objective of the audit was to express an opinion on the financial statements of the town of Waukesha as of December 31st, 2018. We have done so. We've issued an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that you can receive from an external auditor. It's also known as a clean bill of health. So again, when you hire an external auditor, this is the outcome you're looking to have. In the communication document to those charged with governance and management, we highlight 3 material weaknesses consistent with years past. The first 2 revolve around a lack of segregation duties in the clerk, treasurer, and administrator's office around having appropriate checks and balances. For an entity of your size, this is a common issue that we report to boards and to the public. It is, of the 70 or so communities that I work with, I'd say 95% receive this material weakness. And our professional standards require that we bring it to the board's attention so that they are due diligent in the information that management provides. Okay, there was nothing that we identified during the course of the audit that raised to the level of concern, but again, more or less a communication that this lack of segregation does exist. Second material weakness revolves around the fact that we prepare the financial statement document for the town. Very similar to the previous material weakness, this is something that we do for the majority of our clients. It does not, it's not a cost benefit to have a CPA on staff for the town, and so they outsource that service and something that we provide. Continuing in that document, there's a 2-way communication point that we look to have with the board. We put some thought-provoking questions in there as we look forward to the 2019 audit. If there are things that you would like us to kick the tires a little bit harder on differently, our contact information is there, and I suggest that you read through that, and again, feel free to reach out. Continuing in that letter, there's some other comments and recommendations, best practices that we provided for you to read through, and then some required communication that we need to have with both management and the board. In that required communication, we list out any new accounting policies or principles that needed to be adopted during the audit. We list out the estimates that we evaluated of management, and ultimately list out if there were any difficulties in performing the audit, which I'm happy to say we received nothing but cooperation from management. The books were ready when we walked in the door. We had no journal entries, no adjusting entries, which is, I believe, the first year since we took over in 2014. So what that highlights is that the information that the board is given throughout the year is sound financial information to make decisions from. And that is important to hear as a resident. So us coming in, it was a true audit. We received work papers, we audited, we didn't prep anything, and so it was a very successful process. Moving down my handout here, I've highlighted some financial highlights for you in the general fund. At the end of the year, bottom of the page, $1.3 million in fund balance. That fund balance is broken out into a couple different categories to kind of highlight how that money is earmarked for future spending. The first is non-spendable. It's about $25,000 of non-spendable fund balance. What that means is there's just activity that has not run through the town's income statement, so they've prepaid for some items in 18 that will be a 2019 expenditure, and so that money isn't available to spend. There's $252,000 assigned to be transferred in 2019 from the general fund to the capital project fund to be in compliance with the town's fund balance policy. They the board has a policy in place to have no more than 40% of the following year's operating expenditures in the general fund's unassigned category. And so in order to be in compliance with that, we've earmarked that $252 that will be transferred in 2019. The next fund is the capital project fund. There's a $1.67 million in there available for future capital spending that has been committed by the board for that purpose, but can be changed in the future through an action by the board. Last column there is your non-major funds. That makes up your Act 102 fund, your fire donation fund, the fire inspection prevention fund, and your debt service fund. And between those four funds, there's $113,000 of fund balance. On the last page, I've laid out a budgetary compliance picture for you of the general fund. I'm going to focus more on the total lines there. The total revenue for the general fund was $110,000 more than what the budget was planned. So $2.67 million compared to $2.56. Expenditures, there was a budget put in place of $2.56 million, but only $2.37 was spent. $2.38 was spent. So you had a net change in fund balance of $169,000 in the general fund. So a very good year on both sides looking at the revenue expenditure picture. So the important takeaways here: management is doing a good job of providing financial information to the board to make decisions. The fund balance in the general fund is very healthy. 40% on hand and unassigned means that there are cash on hand to pay bills, and a good amount of money set aside for future capital projects. So a very solid financial position, very sound. So with that, Mr. Chairman, that is my report.
Thank you very much. Next report then will be from our assessor, Marty Keene with Tyler Technologies.
Thank you very much. For 2018, the total of real estate, the assessment within the community was $906,794,400, while the personal property added an additional $2,823,400 for an aggregate value of about $909,613,800. In comparison, the state of Wisconsin calculates what's called an equalized value. It's more or less what they consider to be the fair market value of the community. It's something that's devised to help distribute, for example, the costs of Waukesha County equally across all of the different communities within Waukesha County or WCT WCTC. In comparing those fair market values to our assessments, it showed in a total of the real estate and personal property that our assessments were about 87.54%. The last time that we did a revaluation here was, I believe, 2014. So over the 4 years, we're seeing an amount of growth within the marketplace while the assessments remain basically static, only compensating for new properties, new additions, new houses, new remodeling projects, demolition activities. So that's good in that you're seeing a positive increase within the marketplace. Last year within the community, reporting to the state, we had 121 residential transactions split between 13 lots and 108 improved properties. The assessment, if you want to take a look at the median, which means there's an equal number of sales above and below whatever that midpoint is, we're down to about 78%. So over 2018, the statement of assessment was based on January 1st of 18. As we look at January 1st, 2019, there was almost about an 8 or 9% growth in the sales that were out there. So it would make even our assessments, if we didn't do a revaluation this next year, lower. We are looking at, we will be completing a revaluation this year. We consider this type of revaluation to be what we call an interim market update. We have the data within our database. We have a great familiarity with the properties within the community. As we've been working the process from year to year, I believe that the data is very accurate, both objectively, things that we can measure, touch, and count, and subjectively, so that it allows us, with our knowledge of the community, to be very efficient in establishing new values. We will not be driving by everybody's house. We will not be walking through everybody's house. Most of it will be within the office, taking a look at the sales and making sure that the comparables and the adjustments are appropriate and the market final estimate is complete. We're looking at having that done and having notices in the property's owner hands, I believe, in June. That's the initial target right now. We'll have a period for open book for people if they have any questions to come in and speak with me, look at the information, look at the comparable sales. We'll also have, after that period, the regular board review, so that if you still have any dispute with the assessment, thinking that I've erred in my ways, you still have that forum, the board review, to have your assessment be heard. But the community, everything is progressing. I mean, the real estate market is strong here, as I've found in many, many communities across the state. There seems to be more recovery now than what we experienced some 10 years ago when it was very dire. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your report. Next report will come from DPW Director Jerry Noley. Jerry?
Okay, there we go. All right, bear with me. This is my first annual report. So I was appointed as DPW Director, I believe 4 years ago. I've worked for the town for over 20 years. So here's my 2018 report. The town paved the following roads for a cost of $239,780. That was done by Payne and Dolan. We paved Moyer Way, the cul-de-sac, Heather Drive, Heather Court, Oak Grove Lane, Valley View, Milky Way, the north end, which was bad, and we also did a concrete patch, which was kind of an emergency repair on Sunset Drive. Our crack fill and flex patch was done by a contractor called Thunder Road at a cost of $102,000, $328. Our slag chip seal was done by Scott Construction for a total of $70,870. Total road work was $173,198. Now that's the crack fill, the slag. That doesn't include the paving. Our paving work comes out of our capital budget, and we try to stick around $300,000, so we stayed below that. And then we try to stay like, $150,000 for road work. We went a hair above that, so it was kind of a wash. So we definitely stayed within budget. We replaced 2 trucks for the DPW. We replaced a 1997 3/4 ton Chevy pickup with a Dodge 3/4 pickup with a plow. Total cost for that was $32,170. We also replaced a 2003 1-ton Chevy dump truck, and we replaced that with a Dodge 3500 with a plow and a salter for $53,705. We were able to sell the existing trucks for, I believe it was roughly $11,000, so that helped towards the purchase of those. Our snow and ice removal went real well. Our contractor expense was $55,912. That was paid to Workman Enterprises. Our DPW payroll was $13,121, and our salt expense was $82,857. Our total 2018 expense for snow removal was $151,890. I think that's really good compared to some of our neighboring communities. I think we're moving in the right direction as far as that goes. The Public Works has four single axle wing plow trucks equipped with salters. We have 2 1-ton trucks that are able to plow. We have 2 full-time employees, myself, Paul Sales, 2 seasonal part-time plow drivers, 1 part-time employee, and we have 1 college student that works part-time for us. You know, the single axle plow trucks and equipment, hopefully with the construction of a new storage building for these trucks and equipment, longevity will increase, and I think productivity will increase too. As far as culvert installation, we installed 26 driveway culverts and 2 road culverts. The town installs all driveway culverts, actually all culverts, and we had a total revenue from the driveway culverts of $38,000 for that, so that helps compensate for our labor and whatnot there. We're in the process of replacing our street signs. At one point it was supposed to be mandated that they would be all replaced with 9-inch high-intensity signs at a certain time. The state basically backed off on that because of the expense, but it still is mandatory that all signs that are at a road with a speed limit of 35 miles an hour or greater are to be replaced immediately. So we're doing all our main corridors, and we're probably 80% complete with that. As crude as I was, that's my report.
Well, thank you, Jerry. I mean, I think your debut was a smashing success. In fact, I'm almost tempted to, well, I was going to say, lead a round of applause. Hopefully none of the other presenters who will not get a round of applause won't feel slighted, but I think he was great, wasn't he? Okay. Fire Chief Dan Buchholz, the bar has been set high, but you're next.
Very. Our department roster decreased in 2018 slightly. It fluctuated up and down, but we went from 36 members in 2017 to 33 members at the end of 2018. Those folks are very dedicated and very professional people. We should be very proud of the folks that we have that serve on the fire department. They give up a lot. They deserve a lot. The fire department responded in 2018 to 567 calls. 378 of those are emergency medical calls. 66 were for vehicle accidents, 123 were fire responses. We did do mutual aid 92 times, and we received mutual aid 137 times. 107 of those 137 mutual aids that we received, though, are actually an agreement we've worked out, and we share paramedics with the town of Vernon. So those 107 calls were actually the town of Vernon helping us with paramedics so that we get our paramedic program up and running. Basically, the fire department responded to about 78% EMS calls and 22% non-EMS calls. The fire department maintains 10 vehicles. They range in age from 23 years old to 2 years old. The average age of our vehicles is about 14 and a half years old. We do have an aging fleet, but it's well maintained and it serves the town quite well. In 2017, we actually received the FEMA grant from FEMA Assistance to Firefighter Grant. That grant was for $203,048, and the town had to contribute 5% of that, or $10,152. With that money, we completed the project in 2018 of replacing all of our breathing apparatus. We went from Scott breathing apparatus to MSA breathing apparatus. So far, it's been a huge success. Members of the fire department like the new equipment, that upgraded equipment that was originally purchased in 1967. Fire inspector performed all of the public, business, commercial, industrial, multifamily property inspections in 2018. That allowed the fire department to meet the Wisconsin Department of Safety and Professional Services NFPA requirements. We had a very highly successful state Department of Safety on-site audit in 2018. That allowed us to collect our 2% dues every year. So far, since I've been chief, since 2000, we've collected our 2% dues. In other words, we're completing the requirements that the state asked us to do. That number is somewhere around $35,000 to $37,000 annually, so it's a substantial amount of money that we can use towards fire prevention in our community. Fire inspections that were done, we had 143 inspections that were completed the first period of 2018 and 136 in the second period of 2018. Over the entire year, there were 52 violations, all of which were corrected. We had no occupancies that we didn't get into, and we were able to not issue any citations to anyone. We witnessed the fire drills at all the public and private schools in our jurisdictions. We provided safety and fire prevention education programs to several community organizations and individuals, including the schools. We reached out to more than 720 children, 110 adults, and to do all those programs, we relied on volunteers in the fire department. At least 28 people participated in those activities. Fire Prevention Week at our fire department in 2018 was kicked off with our open house and our pancake breakfast again, which was pretty successful. We had over 1,000 people here. It's one of the biggest fire prevention activities in the county. It's something that our department is very proud of, and we definitely appreciate the support that we get from the community to put on this event, and hopefully the education and the things that they can take from this are beneficial. From that event, our donations came to about $7,500. We purchased with that Rhino glass cutters that are windshield cutters to cut through the new tempered glass that is going to appear on all vehicles, on all windows, not just the windshield. We're also putting some of that money towards the replacement of our ATV trailer. Our medical director, Dr. Schultz, continues to work to expand our paramedic program. We work jointly with the town of Vernon. Our paramedic program operates off of one license. We don't both have licenses, and that's why we're doing it this way. It's a model that has been followed up in the northern part of the county, and so far it's been pretty successful for us. Our goal is to eventually have enough paramedics so that when we operate this program, our paramedics will come out of our own station. Right now, we have 4 paramedics in our department that we use, and the rest is supplemented from Vernon's fire department. In 2018, we actually got the new digital radio 800 system up and running from the county. That system has been in the works, believe it or not, since 2014. They're still working on some of the wrinkles. We still have some reprogrammings that may have to be done yet in the future, but the program is now up and running. The county this year in 2018 also upgraded the CAD, the Intergraph CAD system. They purchased a new upgrade to the software. They're still working out ripples with that. In addition to our CAD updates, we added 2 MDCs to our tenders. We now have mobile data computers in all of our frontline engines, ambulances, and now our tenders. Projects for 2019, we hope to continue working on the development and expansion of shared services and automatic aid with our neighbors, including our paramedic system to make that grow and help that grow. We continue with our MAVIS updates, which is our automatic mutual aid program through the county. We continue to upgrade our radio communication capability with the state interoperability requirements. We hope to expand and modify our site pre-plans for all the businesses and commercial properties in the town, and establish new staff and operating programs for future growth in the community, and hopefully complete some sort of in-house living quarters for personnel so we have folks on site. Throughout the year, our personnel, like I said, have been providing excellent service to the town of Waukesha. Our firefighters and EMTs display a huge passion and professionalism that I think our citizens respect and want. The fire department does express a great appreciation and thankfulness to the support of all the members of the community.
Thank you very much, Chief. The last formal report for this evening comes from Waukesha County Sheriff's Department. Might note your agenda makes reference to Deputy Moonen, who's not here this evening, but we are honored, and why don't both of you come on up in his place. We have got Lieutenant Nicholas Ollinger. I hope I said that correctly. Come on up to the microphone. And Deputy Allison Moose, why don't you come on up? Correct me with your name when you get up here so I can do it better the next time.
It was actually Captain Mark Moonen, not Deputy Moonen.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. And
okay.
then I'm Nicholas Ollinger.
Very good. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you for having us. The Waukesha County Sheriff's Department has a long tradition of providing law enforcement services on a contractual basis to the communities within Waukesha County. The town of Waukesha is contracted with the Waukesha County Sheriff's Department for dedicated law enforcement service since 2004. In 2018, Deputy Alyssa Moose was assigned to the town of Waukesha contract on second shift, working 5 days a week. This annual report will address the stats for the town of Waukesha for the year of 2018. The town of Waukesha contract deputy responded to a total of 715 calls for service. This is an 8.1 increase from 2017, which had 661 calls for service. Of those calls in 2018, 65 and/or 9% were pertaining to 911 calls that were dispatched as 911 hangups, open lines, or no causes. This is the same occurrence of 911 calls taken by the town of Waukesha deputy in 2017. 88% of calls were taken to assist the town of Waukesha Fire Department, either by responding for medical calls for service and/or for fire calls for service. The town of Waukesha contract deputy issued 166 traffic citations. Of those, 7 were written warnings, and 66 verbal warnings were issued during the traffic stops. In addition to the traffic-related citations being issued, 46 municipal ordinance citations and 1 parking citation were issued in 2018. There were a total of 2 OWI arrests. 4 drivers were issued citations for operating while suspended and/or operating after revocation, and 49 incidences were reported as other traffic offenses. Of these traffic incidents are generally dispatched as possible drunk drivers, reckless drivers, and/or traffic hazard calls. The town of Waukesha contract deputy responded to a total of 39 vehicle crashes in 2018. 28 of those crashes involved property damage only, 5 involved an injury, 6 of the crashes involved some type of animal, car, deer, and 2 crashes were reported as hit and run incidences. Of the total, 31 property crimes reported in the town of Waukesha contract hours. 1 incident involved a burglary, 6 involved criminal damage to property, 16 involved fraud, 8 involved theft, and 2 involved trespassing. 4 domestic incidences were dispatched in 2018, and this is the same as of 2017. 2 calls resulted in battery, which is the same number as 2017. The Waukesha County Sheriff's Department is dedicated to providing responsive, customer-oriented service to contract communities and unincorporated areas within Waukesha County.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
To all of the 6 individuals who presented reports tonight on behalf of the town of Waukesha, thank you for your dedication, your commitment to service, and the professional manner in which you've done that this past year. We look forward to more of the same going forward. Thank you. Item 6 on the agenda is notices comments from outgoing town chairman John Merrick, and as indicated at the beginning of the meeting, he's not present, so we will pass along after that. Item 7 is citizens' comments and action as authorized by law. So any of you who would like to approach the microphone and offer citizens' comments, you're welcome to do so at this point in time. Please introduce yourself by name and give your address slowly and clearly so the clerk can capture it. Thank you.
Good evening. Mike Borchert, West 231, South 5205, Hunters Hollow. I've been a resident for the town of Waukesha for 29 years. I've seen a lot of different faces up on the board, and one of the things I've seen over the years is town residents are very quick to criticize what the board does, and they overlook a lot of the positive things that have been done over the years. And in my opinion, the board consisting of John Merrick, Jim Radke, Larry Wolf, Mike Dorr, and Brian Fisher have been one of the best boards to serve the town of Waukesha. There will be some changes, obviously, but I'm hoping that the new board, as it is put together, will continue to work for the citizens of the town of Waukesha in a positive direction. And I encourage all the other town residents to get involved, come to the meetings, and pay attention to what's going on, and not sit back and complain all the time. The town board needs feedback, and they will accept criticism, and it's our job as citizens to do that. So it's a two-way street, and I'm speaking to the board and all the town residents that we have. My special thanks to Larry Wolf for his 6 years of dedicated service to the town, and John Merrick for his 6 years of dedicated service. I think that both of them have made a major impact into the town of Waukesha. There have been a lot of improvements and things that have been better that a lot of people don't know about. So the important thing is for the board members, especially the new ones, to realize you've been elected by the town residents to work for us. And we will try to give you as much feedback as we can, and I'm hopeful that you will do your best job for the best interest of all the town residents. And I know it's impossible for everyone to agree on everything at the same time. That's just part of the process. So I'm just being confident that you're going to do the best job for all the town residents here. So good luck to you, all of you, in the future. And we thank you for your service, because I know it's not an easy job and a lot of people don't want to do it. And if they complain too much, maybe they should put their name on a ballot and get their butt up there and try it once and see what they can do for the town. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay. Thank you very much. Maybe a bit impromptu, but why don't we all give Larry Wolf and John Merrick a round of applause for their 6 years of service. Thank you. Who else would like to speak? We know who you are, but you got to tell us anyway.
Betty Paget, South 57 West 22641, Woodside Court. I just want to welcome the new members of the board. I do work in the office sometimes, so I'll be seeing you. And congratulate you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome back the old members of the board. And Jerry, you did a great job. And so did Dan. Okay, and that's all I have to say was I just wanted to welcome you to the board.
Thank you. Who else?
My name is Dan Hessel. I live at South 15, West 22172, Arcadian Avenue, Waukesha. I have a little bit something to be debatable about some of the comments you made.
If you would just address to the board, please.
Okay. I hope the new administration makes the town a town. I've had the building inspector come out to my property. And as he came out, the town board was changing ordinances faster than he could keep up. I couldn't even keep a pail in my yard. I live in a town. I don't live in a subdivision, a village, downtown New York City, but I had to make my property as good as downtown New York City. I'm not very happy about that. Anybody wants to come out to my property and see what I had to do would think, this is not America. I had a guy come out and help me get rid of things I've had for 30 years. I've been out there almost 35 years. And because somebody moves in the neighborhood and doesn't like something in my yard, can tell the town, hey, get the building inspector out there. Get that guy to get that thing out of his yard. Whether he can see it or not, I got to get rid of it. And this guy, he showed, exchange student from Yugoslavia came over and looked at it. He said, you know what? We got more rights in our country than you have here. You can't do anything here. And that's a shame to have that happen. I have no individual freedom where they can come over and say, you can't have that pail of stones in your yard. We're going to fine you. So I disagree with some of the stuff that the board and that has done to the town. I'm damned ashamed of it. I am ashamed of that. If I wanted that, I would live in the city. And when I look in my backyard, that's what I got behind me. No builder would have ever been able to build that if he wouldn't have been in with the town on this committee. I say that right now, and I hope things get changed, that the town stays a town, and when people build a house, they live in it, and they don't rent it out. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak?
I'm not that tall. Sandy Hom. Yeah, little stool, you know. West 230, South 3827, Milky Way Road in the town. I said the last time I was here I was repeating myself, and so I'll kind of do it again. But during the last election, quite a few people asked questions and made comments on a Facebook page that I have operated that made it seem that the people thought that this election was a partisan election. And I went to great lengths to try to explain to people that these municipal elections are nonpartisan all the way up to the Supreme Court. So there were no R's next to your names and no D's next to your names. And those issues that are before you are not a Republican or a Democratic or a Libertarian or a Green Party issue. They are the roads, they are the fire department, they are our taxes. And so I'm just asking everybody to come together now as a group and remember that this isn't supposed to be a hostile environment. We're supposed to all be working for the same thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Who's next?
Hi, Lori Longtime, W271 S3581 Oak Knoll Drive. I congratulate the people that were elected and thank the people that have served in the past. One of the things that is very important to me personally is the ability for citizens to address their elected officials. As Mr. Borchert pointed out, you work for us. I think some people in the past have not understood that very well, and they think that they make decisions based on, what they think is the best. And what may sometimes seem like complaining is merely addressing our concerns to the board and the planning commission about what we are all in this together. This is our town. You don't own it and I don't own it, but I think that these are the rules and regulations of working together as a community, and I look very much forward to having our right to address our elected officials expanded rather than contracted as they were in the last board in their decisions. And I would even encourage Mr. Durr and Mr. Radke, who I know voted for those restrictions, to consider that it's important for you to be responsive to us. Again, not everything we're not going to agree on every issue, but it's important to be heard. And these town hall meetings are the backbone of our democracy. If we can't address our elected officials at this level, we have really no hope of having any kind of democracy in the levels above that at all. We have a right to speak, and you have an obligation to listen. And you may not agree, and you may vote differently, but we do have that right. And I know that the statutes and so forth don't specify a certain amount of time or how many times, but I do think that we had a fairly nice balance of time before the Plan Commission meeting and another comment period before the full board. And I would hope that our new board would consider very seriously reinstating those comment periods and expanding the rights of or the ability of citizens. I mean, we have the rights already. The ability of citizens to address their town. And I know that one of the issues that came up in that debate was, well, you can call us anytime. My cell phone's on all the time, night and day. Well, who's going to really, in their right mind, call an elected official, at 2 a.m.? Nobody. You deserve whatever you get, okay, at that point. However, this is what's important, so that we hear each other. And, we can hear what Mr. Borchert had to say and hear Mr. Weiss? So we know what else is going on. I mean, we know what's going on in our backyards. You have a better idea of what's going on throughout the town, but we have the ability to hear each other, and that is almost even more critical than other things. So I just ask you to seriously consider that. I personally based my vote at the last election on that and that alone. So I really appreciate your time. Thanks for listening, and please give it some serious thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to speak next?
I'm Vicki Comans, South 56, West 22626 Woodside Drive. I used to live in Sussex. They put a sidewalk in my front yard. That's why we left. Live in Waukesha now. I moved into a town. I think you pick your house based on the neighborhood. I'd like it to stay the way it is. There's 100 acres for sale behind my house. It came up before the board years ago, before the owner passed away. He tried to get it subdivided so that homes could go in there. a lot of homes. All of us neighbors complained about it, and he withdrew his petition to have that property changed. It's up for sale again. I'd like to know what's going on there. I haven't attended enough meetings to know how to find out. I'd like to know what's going on in my backyard, and I don't know, and I don't know how to find out. So it's my fault for not being as involved, but when you move into some place that's just a nice, quiet, little sleepy dead-end road, you become complacent, and then the piece behind you is for sale. And like this gentleman saying he's got a city in front of him or behind him, I think that's what could be coming in my backyard, and I'd like to know. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Who's next?
Saved by the bell. Angie Van Sock, South 51, West 25375 Glendale Road. I welcome the new board. Congratulations. Things have changed over the last 6 years. I think some of the larger meetings here were demonstrative of the things that people were concerned about. I think Act 67 changed a lot, and our town has not been responsive to date on changing the laws to reduce the number of approvals that can happen by conditional use, because the state has basically removed most of the protections that towns had in how they were able to oversee conditional use. Having so many options in our code to allow things under conditional use ties your hands and hurts us as residents as to what can go on behind us. If it's the 100 acre behind Ms. Coleman's land or property, or any amount of property that somebody could buy, a developer could buy and put in another recreational facility, I think people are concerned that the town remain the town, and having large commercial developments that haven't been previously approved or planned is concerning. So the Act 67, I'd appreciate if the town could take a close look at the conditional use requirements. Town of Delafield just redid their zoning ordinance to protect the township and the town's members. And the other thing that happened in the last 6 years is our zoning changed to allow multifamily property anywhere in the town. Anywhere in the town. It was initially limited just to those areas that adjoin the city, that had access to city sewer and water, because there are pockets in the town through mutual agreements over the years where city water and sewer was extended to certain properties without annexation. And our town code allowed multifamily strictly in those areas. That code was changed in the last 6 years, and somebody has profited by that, and more people will if we don't make a change to that now. I feel strongly that should never have changed. If we want to protect the town and keep it rural, allowing multifamily anywhere in the town is a great disservice to all of us who expected to have acre lots and, a rural atmosphere. And I hope that the town board seriously looks at that and perhaps makes some changes to revert back to keeping our town versus city with multifamily. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak? Anybody else? Kind of last opportunity. I guess I'll just make a comment if no one else wants to speak. I think it was really refreshing. I did a quick head count. I think we had 27 people here in the audience tonight. That's more than I can remember coming to an annual meeting, at least in a long time. I lost count of the number of people who spoke. Probably more people spoke tonight than have attended some past annual meetings. I think that's a good thing. Glad to see all of you here. Hope you continue to be interested and involved in the operation of your town. If there are no further citizen comments, we'll move to item 8 on the agenda, which is to set the annual meeting date for the Town of Waukesha 178th annual meeting. I look at that interestingly. I think Wisconsin became a state in 1848. We were actually constituted as a town before the state became a state. Pretty neat. The other thing, and we'll get to the date in a minute, but I think that 178th annual meeting, I think, will be the second consecutive annual report from DPW Director Jerry Noley, correct? So y'all ought to set your calendars for that, if for no other reason. Jerry takes it in good sport, right? Of course. The suggested date for that we'd like to set is Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. It's not going to work for you? Boy, you flatter the guy, and now we don't even get cooperation. This is not good. We'll deal with that part of it after the meeting. We're still going to set the date for Tuesday, April. You've got time to get your calendar in order. That's over a year. Tuesday, April 21st, 2020 at 7 p.m. here at the Waukesha Town Hall. A motion would be in order to set that time and date for the meeting.
I make a motion that we set the Town of Waukesha 178th annual meeting date for Tuesday, April 21st, 2020 at 7 p.m. at the Waukesha Town Hall.
Okay, and a second to that motion?
I'll second.
We'll get Ed Padgett on the second on that. All right, all of those who are in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Item 9 on the agenda then is to set the date for the 2019 public hearing to present the proposed 2020 budgets. And the suggested time and date for that, or date and time, Tuesday, November 5th, 2019 at 7 p.m. Also here at the Waukesha Town Hall or at the notice of the town board. So a motion to set that date and time for the 2019 public hearing to present the budgets would be in order at this time. Mr. Hom, and a second to the motion? Second. I think we got Mary Graves. Okay. All who would vote in favor of that proposed date and time, 2019 public hearing, the proposed budgets, Tuesday, November 5th, 2019 at 7 p.m. indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously as well. At this point in time, unless there's any other business to conduct, a motion for adjournment would be in order.
Make a motion we adjourn.
And the second came from Angie Van Sock. And we'll vote on that momentarily. Assuming that passes, we would conclude at 7:58 p.m. All in favor of adjournment indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you all very much. Have a great evening.